What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, there's a lot of talks that undefeated three-division world champion, superstar boxer Gervonta Tank Davis, and undefeated lightweight, junior welterweight, Mexican superstar title contender King Ryan Garcia could possibly break pay-per-view numbers and records should they face off against one another in a reported April 15th Las Vegas, Nevada showdown between the two. And this striked an uproar from one specific person in legendary promoter in Lou DiBella, who went off. Lou DiBella, he absolutely went off, and he stated that if you think that Gervonta Tank Davis, whose biggest pay-per-views was 275,000 pay-per-view buys, and Ryan Garcia, who's never done a pay-per-view and headline a major pay-per-view card, is going to do 1 million pay-per-views, he says, you are out your mind, right? He says, we don't have a Floyd Mayweather anymore. We don't have a Mike Tyson anymore. We don't have a Roy Jones Jr. anymore. We don't have a Muhammad Ali, that type of level of a fighter anymore, Oscar De La Hoya, in the sport of boxing, currently as it stands. And he stated that even when it comes to the highly anticipated, now these are the most highly anticipated fights right now, currently as it stands, and that's Gervonta Tank Davis, who has 28 wins, no loss, no draw, 26 wins by way of knockout, 28 years of age, 5'5" with a 67-inch arm reach. And Ryan Garcia has 23 wins, no loss, no draw, 19 wins by way of knockout, 24 years of age, 5'10" with a 70-inch arm reach. And then another highly anticipated showdown is the undisputed welterweight showdown between undefeated three-division world champion, who formerly is the undisputed junior welterweight world champion, currently the WBO reigning welterweight world champion, superstar boxer Terrence Bud Crawford, and undefeated unified WBA, WBC, IBF welterweight world champion, superstar boxer Errol the True Spence Jr. Errol Spence Jr. has a record of 28 wins, no loss, no draw, 22 wins by way of knockout at 32 years of age, 5'9.5" with a 72-inch arm reach. And Terrence Crawford is 39 wins, no losses, no draws, with 30 big wins by way of knockout. He is 35 years of age. And Lou DiBella, he stated that nobody knows Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence, right? He stated that that's another fight that's not going to do 1 million pay-per-view buys. So he stated that you out your mind if you think that Errol Spence, Terrence Crawford is going to do 1 million pay-per-view buys, and Gervonta Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia, which sparked the question to me when he stated that we don't have a Floyd Mayweather, Oscar De La Hoya, Mike Tyson, Roy Jones Jr. anymore in the sport of boxing, currently in the state of boxing. Now, that's largely in due part to the piracy within the sport of boxing with the pay-per-views. But then I looked at these numbers, and I saw that November 29th of 2020, we had an exhibition bout between Iron Mike Tyson and Roy Jones Jr. Roy Jones Jr. was over 50 years old, and Mike Tyson was over 50 years old. Roy Jones was actually 52, and Mike Tyson was 54 years of age. I'm going to say it to you again. Roy Jones was 52, and Mike Tyson was 54. This was November of 2020. And this was a pay-per-view fight, an exhibition. And this came in at number 9 with the 9th highest pay-per-view buys in boxing history. Let me say it to you again. With 1.6 million pay-per-view buys, and it did in revenue, pay-per-view revenue, it brought in $80.5 million in pay-per-view revenue. Okay, so it did 1.6 million pay-per-view buys. So it begs the question: is it truly the piracy, or is it the lack of star power from these current fighters? Because now I look at it and I say the piracy is a major part in the sport of boxing in today's time. But then I look at Roy Jones at 52 and Mike Tyson at 54 having an exhibition bout and doing 1.6 million pay-per-view buys and grossing in 80.5 million in revenue and coming in at the 9th highest fight and pay-per-view record in the history of the sport of boxing. Now, again, Floyd Mayweather, he tops the list all the time. The two top guys on this list is Floyd Mayweather and Iron Mike Tyson as pay-per-view superstars. Floyd Mayweather at number one with his fight with Manny Pacquiao in 2015 did 4.6 million pay-per-view buys. That's the biggest pay-per-view event in the history of the sport of boxing. Then Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor 2 years later came in at number two with 4.3 million pay-per-view buys, grossing in $396 million. The Pacquiao fight grossed in $410 million. Then you have Floyd Mayweather and Canelo Alvarez at number three, coming in at 2.2 million pay-per-view buys at 150 million revenue brought in. Then Floyd Mayweather versus Oscar De La Hoya at number four with 2.4 million pay-per-view buys. Okay, that's even higher than the Canelo Alvarez fight. But the Canelo Alvarez fight, it grossed 150 million, and the Oscar De La Hoya fight grossed 136 million. So if you go by the gross, then these are the highest gross. Okay, and then you have Mike Tyson and Lennox Lewis that did 1.9 million pay-per-view buys. Okay, and then you have Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield Part 2, which did 1.9 million pay-per-view buys. Then you have Mike Tyson versus Peter McNeely when he came out of prison in '95 that did 1.5 million pay-per-view buys. And then you have Floyd Mayweather again on the list, okay, again on the list for the fifth time against Miguel Cotto with 1.5 million pay-per-view buys. Okay, so then you have Mike Tyson again on the list with the Roy Jones fight in 2020 that did 1.6 million pay-per-view buys. And then you have Evander Holyfield, who comes in on the list again against Big George Foreman with 1.4 million pay-per-view buys. Okay, so it begs the question now, right? Is it truly the piracy? Now, I'm sure the piracy plays a major part within the sport of boxing as far as, you know, pay-per-views not grossing, you know, and doing the numbers they should do. But when you factor in a 54-year-old Mike Tyson and a 52-year-old Roy Jones, who are far past their prime in the exhibition, two 50-year-old former fighters in their prime facing off against each other, and they by far do bigger numbers, you can take away 650,000 pay-per-view buys, right? And it still would be the highest pay-per-view sales with any fighter currently today time, including Canelo Alvarez, right? So it begs the question, is it fully the fact that we having the piracy in the sport of boxing, or is it just the lack of star power? Because we know Errol Spence' highest pay-per-view was 350, Terrence Crawford 150, Tank Davis 275, right? Canelo Alvarez, he did 1 million pay-per-view buys with obviously Floyd Mayweather, and then he did 1 million pay-per-view buys with Gennady Triple G Golovkin. So he's done 1 million pay-per-view buys with Floyd Mayweather and without Floyd Mayweather. Outside of Canelo Alvarez, who Floyd Mayweather introduced and directly passed the baton to him as a pay-per-view superstar, outside of Canelo Alvarez, there is no more pay-per-view superstars in the sport of boxing, right? If you can have Mike Tyson again at 54 face off against Roy Jones and do 1.6 million pay-per-view buys, then there's truly no excuse for these young fighters today's time. Now, again, I'm sure if Roy Jones and Mike Tyson didn't have, you know, the piracy, it would be more pay-per-view buys. And I'm sure if these fighters today's time didn't have the piracy, they could do more pay-per-view buys. But there's no way possible that Roy Jones and Mike Tyson at 52 and 54 years of age can outsell by far, these fighters, the current fighters today's time. And it has a lot to do with the politics and a lot to do with the best not fighting the best And Lou DiBella has a strong point that these fighters are just not superstars, crossover superstars like he stated, right? There's no excuse. Again, I can't reiterate it enough. The fighters are not fighting enough. They're not promoted enough. And we're not getting the big enough fights on a consistent basis. It wasn't like we was getting them all the time back in yesteryear, but it was a different time. And there's no way Mike Tyson, Roy Jones at 52 and 54 can outdo the fighters today. But drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. You haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon.
You're watching Blue Blood Sports TV.